I sit and watch the children.
Mick Jagger never believed in slowing down, not at 30, not at 60, and not even now, at 82. While others faded from the stage or retreated into quiet retirements, Mick is still moving, still touring, still leading the Rolling Stones, and still refusing to live life the way most people expect. He's had lovers on every continent. He's fathered 8 children with 5 women. He's walked down the aisle, legally once. He's even been engaged. But Mick Jagger has never truly settled, and now, with a confirmed engagement, a young son, and a quiet domestic life in the background, you'd think maybe finally he'd give in. He hasn't. And maybe he never will. So what is he running from? For over 50 years, fans have watched him love and leave, commit and vanish, promise and pivot. From the heartbreak of Marianne Faithful to the explosive annulment with Jerry Hall. Every relationship seems to end the same way. But there's a pattern hidden in those breakups. And now, the woman who quietly stole his heart has revealed something no one expected. Because behind the scandals and the headlines is a man who may have been protecting something all along. Not his freedom, but something even more vulnerable. So why did Mick Jagger build his life like a song with no chorus? The answer starts in a small town in England, with a boy who never wanted to be ordinary. You're watching RetroWaves, where legends don't just live, they unravel. If you crave the truth behind the tabloids and the moments that defined generations, tap subscribe and join us as we uncover the stories fame tried to hide. July 26, 1943, Dartford, Kent. Mick Jagger is born into a quiet working-class family. His father is a gym teacher, his mother is a hairdresser. They expect discipline, order, responsibility. Mick? He wants more. By the age of 7, he meets Keith Richards, a neighborhood kid who shares his fascination with American blues. A few years later, they reunite on a train platform, Mick's clutching vinyl records of Chuck Berry and Muddy Waters. Keith recognizes them instantly. That moment isn't fate, it's ignition. Soon after, the Rolling Stones are formed, a band that wasn't just anti-Beatles, it was anti-establishment. While Paul and John sang about love and holding hands, Jagger snarled about desire, drugs, and decadence. He didn't just front the Stones, he defined what it meant to be dangerous, and danger attracted people, women, crowds, controversy. By the late 1960s, Mick wasn't just making music, he was shaping culture. His tight pants, his wild hips, the sexual energy on stage. It was all a challenge to everything Britain told young men they were supposed to be. And in his personal life, the same rules applied. He didn't want a housewife. He didn't want a wedding ring. He didn't want a Sunday routine. He wanted chaos. And he got it. But over the decades, as lovers came and went, as children were born, and marriages collapsed, one question stayed constant. Why won't Mick Jagger ever stay? To answer that, we have to look at who he left and how they changed him. It was the summer of 1966. London was alive. The air was filled with revolution in art, in fashion, in music, and in the middle of it all was Marianne Faithful. She was young, ethereal, already known for her haunting single, As Tears Go By, ironically penned by Mick and Keith themselves.
As tears go by.
When she walked into a Rolling Stones party that year, Mick Jagger noticed her immediately. Their relationship was magnetic and tragic. They were the golden couple of swinging London. She wore velvet and lace, he wore leather and eyeliner. They were photographed everywhere. But behind the images was a deeper bond, rooted in poetry, drugs, and defiance. Faithful wasn't just a muse, she was a match, intellectually, artistically, emotionally. But the glamour masked something darker. Marianne began struggling with addiction, their world spiraled. In 1969, she suffered a miscarriage and her mental health crumbled. Mick didn't stay. He drifted, emotionally, then physically. Faithful later called the breakup a wound she never fully healed from. And for Mick, it was the first time he walked away from a woman who saw the real him, not the rock star, but the boy beneath the spotlight. Did it scare him, or was it easier to lose someone than to face their pain? May 1971. Mick marries Bianca Perez Mora Macias in Saint-Tropez. She's stunning, intellectual, from a wealthy Nicaraguan family. She studied political science in Paris. She walks into Mick's world and takes over the room. Their wedding is iconic. Bianca wears Yves Saint Laurent, no shirt beneath her blazer. She's redefining bridal fashion with one look. But the fairy tale unravels quickly. Mick is still Mick, surrounded by women, absorbed in fame, and obsessed with the next thrill. Bianca later said, "My marriage ended on my wedding day." They have one child, Jade Jagger, born later that year. But Bianca is left raising her alone while Mick parties from New York to Berlin. By 1979, she files for divorce, citing infidelity. That wasn't a rumor. It was legally confirmed. After that, Mick Jagger never legally marries again, not once. Not even when he'd spent decades living with his next partner. Could it be that his one legal marriage burned the idea of commitment right out of him? Or did he already know it wouldn't work before he said, "I do"? In 1977, Mick begins dating Jerry Hall, a statuesque Texan model with golden hair and southern charm. She's fresh off a relationship with Brian Ferry, but Mick wins her over fast. They become inseparable. For over 2 decades, they're the face of decadent love. They have 4 children together, Elizabeth, James, Georgia May, and Gabriel. They host glamorous parties jet between London and the Caribbean and pose for every major magazine. In 1990, they hold a Hindu-style ceremony in Bali. Jerry wears white. Mick wears traditional garb. To the world, they're married. But legally, they weren't. That fact wouldn't come to light until 1999, when news broke that Mick had fathered a child with Brazilian model Luciana Murad. Jerry, devastated, filed for divorce, only to be told that their wedding wasn't legally binding under UK law. She filed for annulment and won a financial settlement. But the emotional cost? Public and painful. Jerry later described the breakup as painful and humiliating. And Mick? He never denied it. He let the technicality stand. Which begs the question, did he plan it that way, or was it just another case of a man running from permanence? February 1967. Keith Richards hosts a small gathering at his country estate, Redlands. Mick is there. So is Marianne. What was supposed to be a quiet weekend turned into one of the biggest scandals in British rock history. The News of the World had just run a hit piece on the Stones' drug use. The police raided the house, found cannabis and amphetamines. Mick was arrested. He was sentenced to 3 months in jail. Though the sentence was overturned and he spent only 1 night behind bars, the experience shocked him. The British establishment, their laws, their press, had shown just how far they were willing to go to make an example out of him. The Times newspaper ran a famous editorial in his defense titled, "Who Breaks a Butterfly on a Wheel?" It worked, but the fear lingered. From that moment on, Jagger began to protect his autonomy fiercely. Was marriage just another kind of institution he didn't trust? Did he fear that even love could become a trap? In 2014, something shifted. Mick met Melanie Hamrick, a professional ballerina with the American Ballet Theater, during a tour stop in Tokyo. She was quiet, grounded, focused. Unlike his previous partners, Melanie didn't seek the spotlight. And perhaps that's exactly what he needed. Their relationship stayed low profile. In 2016, she gave birth to their son, Devereux Octavian Basil Jagger, Mick's 8th child. No scandals, no paparazzi chaos, no high-profile drama. For once, Mick Jagger's personal life felt stable. In 2024, Melanie quietly confirmed to Paris Match magazine that they were, in fact, engaged. Yes, she said, he proposed 2 or 3 years ago. But when asked if they'd marry, she added, "Maybe one day we will, maybe not. We're so happy the way things are, I'd be afraid to change anything." That quote reveals everything. For the first time, a partner of Jagger's doesn't pressure him for permanence, and maybe that's why it's lasted. So here he is, Mick Jagger, 82 years old, still on stage, still commanding stadiums, still the man no one can tame. But off stage, he returns to a quiet home with Melanie and their young son. No scandals, no court battles, no broken vows. Just silence. It's tempting to look at Jagger's life and see recklessness, ego, fear of intimacy. But what if that wasn't the whole truth? What if, underneath the headlines, there was something more human, more fragile? What if Jagger wasn't running from love, but running from the one thing he never trusted, permanence? Because permanence demands vulnerability. It asks you to slow down. It asks you to stop chasing, stop becoming, and just be. And that's never been easy for Mick Jagger. From the moment he stepped on stage, he became a symbol of freedom. Sexual, artistic, cultural. Freedom was his identity. He was the man who could have anyone, go anywhere, do anything. But freedom comes at a cost. And maybe for Mick, that cost was love. At least the kind that comes with rules and rings and expectations. Marriage to him may have never been about devotion. It was about definitions. And he refused to be defined by anyone but himself. He had already seen what legal love could become: lawsuits, betrayals, annulments. He had walked that path and come out bruised. So instead, he built a fortress around his heart, one lined with music, motion, and mystery. Until Melanie. Because Melanie Hamrick didn't try to storm the castle, she simply waited at the gate. Calm, quiet, unthreatening. And eventually, he let her in. She didn't demand headlines or a ceremony. She didn't ask him to explain himself or make promises he couldn't keep. She gave him space. And in that space, Mick Jagger did something no one expected. He stayed. Not because he had to, but because, for once, it felt right. This wasn't a woman trying to change him. This wasn't a moment wrapped in spectacle. This was real. And it was quiet. And maybe, after a lifetime of noise, quiet was the most radical thing of all. So, will Mick Jagger ever marry Melanie Hamrick? Maybe. But don't count on it, not because he lacks love, but because he's finally found something better than a wedding: understanding. They raise a child together. They've built a home, a rhythm, a partnership. They are a family in every way that matters, without the script. And for a man who's seen how quickly the script can tear apart, that might be the safest place he's ever been. Look back on Mick's life and you'll see it. Every time things got too permanent, too public, too defined, he pulled away, not out of malice, but out of instinct. Because permanence, for Mick Jagger, was never the goal. Motion was, change was. He didn't build monuments, he wrote music, and love, at least for him, had to move like a song, unpredictable, unscripted, alive. Melanie Hamrick didn't fight that. She flowed with it. She understood that sometimes a man who has had the whole world thrown at him doesn't want to hold on to everything. He just wants peace. And she gave him that peace. No contracts, no ultimatums, no pressure, just a quiet kind of love, the kind that never makes the papers, the kind that lasts. And maybe that's the lesson. That for some people, marriage isn't the peak, it's the pressure and real love. Real love doesn't need a ceremony to be real, it just needs two people willing to stay when they don't have to. That's what Mick Jagger finally found. And after 8 children, countless flames, and a lifetime on the run, he finally stopped. Not because he was forced, not because he gave in, but because, after all these years, he finally wanted to. On RetroWaves, we bring you the real stories behind the icons, not the tabloid myths. If this look into Mick Jagger's secret life surprised you, hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. And tell us in the comments, do you think Mick ever truly feared marriage? Or did he just define love his own way? Because sometimes the most powerful commitment is the one that no one ever sees.